So, this one's going to be about edges, and it is also going to be about storytelling, because I found a pretty interesting article from the ideas.ted.com site about storytelling. But as always, more after the intro. It's every day! Every day, completely the exact same thing. As well as me saying that it is completely the exact same thing. It's meta, isn't it? But yeah. With that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics fucking podcast. I'm pumped for this episode, I really am. Even though, I'm only pumped because I've just started the episode. Just before the episode, I was like, well, today is gonna be a pretty stressful day. Because the uploading isn't working as I want it to work, because it's really slow, it takes quite some time. I don't know why, maybe I do just have to restart my computer. But yeah. It's not what the episode's going to be about. But if you're just on a YouTube video and you kind of feel like, well, it is a podcast, so where can I listen to it? Then please go down into the description, because there should be the link to the podcast, and this link should lead you to a page where you can also choose where to listen the podcast on, because you might be willing to listen on Apple Podcast, but you might also like to listen on Spotify, maybe even simultaneously. I don't know why, but maybe. Who actually knows? But yeah, so please go down into the description if you want to check out the podcast if you're on the YouTube video. But if you're on the podcast already, then please go down into the show notes if you want to check out the YouTube video and or the YouTube channel. And as always, the episode should be called the exact same way or named the exact same way or really, really, really similar. Sometimes I do just adapt it because I kind of feel like it. I don't know why. But so we're going to talk about edges. Edges might be something that not a lot of people kind of know what I'm going to talk about. It's going to be a kind of a surprise. But the funny thing is, I've recently heard Gary Vee talking about the edges as well. He said that a lot of people are in the middle. And now I might be combining it with what Seth Godin said, which is kind of the maybe more interesting part of the whole story, but it is definitely just an addition to it and or just part of the story. So we often are in the middle. This is where most of the people are. But nowadays, it is rather a game of the edges. I haven't still, up to this point, I am not quite sure how you could also be doing that. So I know the concept, I understand it and whatnot, but I think there are some nuances that I'm just missing out of. But the thing is, most often people try to produce, so it's also about content. It's maybe even primarily about content and primarily about creating something. But if you're creating something, you should be doing something for the edges. You shouldn't be doing something for the middle, and you just have to think about it in such a way. If I'm having 30 people in a room, then we're going to have really tall people and we're going to have really, really small and tiny people. And that's always the case, and there's also going to be the people which are the people in the middle that are kind of the exact same height. Which means that we're having the people with the exact same height in the middle, then maybe on the left or right side, the really small people. On the opposite side, there's going to be the really tall people. It is actually something that's really funny. We're just doing that in maths class, the exact same thing. I don't know what it is called in English, but I guess it's something like, maybe something with distribution, but I'm not quite sure. So the thing is, think about a graph, and the graph is really tall in the middle. And on the left and on the right side, it just goes down. It looks like a bell, basically. I think it's actually a bell curve or bell graph, as it is called in English. But the funny thing is that most often people try to do something for the people in the middle. At least this is what they try to communicate. At least this is what the metaphor is all about. And the funny thing is, I don't know who copied from whom, actually. Because I kind of feel like that Seth Godin was the first that did that. Maybe this is kind of how they both think, and they actually do not, they didn't copy anything from the other one and kind of vice versa and whatnot. Could also be the case, but just choose an edge. You shouldn't be producing something for all the people, which is now really what Seth Godin is saying. You shouldn't really produce something for all the people. It wouldn't work. It would not really work, since maybe because a lot of people try to do that. A lot of people try to just produce a lot of things for the majority, for the masses, and it's not gonna be pretty easy. It's really not gonna be easy. On the other hand, I don't even think, and I wouldn't necessarily say that it would even work, some kinda. But producing something for the edges, producing something for those people that might be really tall or it might be really small, or maybe for both edges actually, not for the middle, but for both edges, like for those people that are really small and for those people that are really tall. Let's talk about fashion, I don't know, maybe you have a store and the store is only selling really small sizes and really, really, really high and tall and big sizes, but nothing in the middle, because it is a shop for really small people and really tall people. But of course, if there's some kind of a demand, if the people in the middle demand something off of you, then of course you could also just be doing that. But starting out with doing something for the edges, for those people that you're willing to serve, because it's, I would say, easier to serve those people that are really on the edges, because you can just do something for them, because okay, this person is small and I'm gonna just make small fashion. I'm gonna make small pieces because then they're gonna buy it. And this is something that serves them because I want to serve them. And or if it is about, let's say, cooking, you might be having a restaurant and you're only gonna do something for people that are that want things that are gluten-free, that are dairy-free, that are maybe even white flour free. Maybe it is also just vegetarian and vegan. So basically everything that you're gonna have, which is, by the way, something that Seth's wife is doing. She's having a bakery which is completely gluten-free and free. It's basically free of everything, which is in terms of the edges. Because she's doing something, and she's, I guess, the only bakery in the whole New York and maybe even in the whole world that is doing something like that. Which means if somebody wants to have that, they need to go to New York, and they need to go to her and get it. At least on such a scale, at least in terms of the scale of the business, of course. Maybe even just in terms of the scale of the whole building and whatnot. I don't know. I haven't just had a look at it. But yeah, I think I've actually been able to communicate that in a pretty interesting way. Even though I didn't really know what I'm talking about. I understood the concept, but there was a little bit of being philosophical about it. But I hope you have understood it, and I hope that you're also trying to not do something for everyone, because this is also something that plays into it, is the 1000 true fans theory by, I think he's called Dan Kelly, if I remember that correctly. And it is something that Tim Ferriss was talking about or has been talking about. And it is definitely also something that Seth Godin was talking about as well. I wouldn't necessarily say... Well, Gary Vee is also talking about it, but not really consciously. He's often talking about having a podcast about Smurfs. And this podcast is probably not gonna just be watched by everyone or be listened to by everyone, because not everyone is interested in the Smurfs. But he still says that he could be doing that, and he could still just be pretty successful while doing it. But the whole concept of the 1000 true fans is that you only need 1000 true fans. True fans are people that are gonna buy everything that you're doing. If you're on a concert, they're gonna come. If you're having, you're opening a bakery, they're gonna come and they're gonna buy some bread. Whatever you're doing, they're gonna be there. Whatever you're putting out, they're gonna buy that. And let's think about that. If you're having 1000 true fans and and everyone pays $100 per year, you're gonna make 100K. If I've calculated that correctly, which I'm not really sure of because I'm really not good at that. But you only need such an amount of people. You do not need anybody. It is something that a lot of people talk about, and a lot of people kind of assume that you need to have that, but it is really not the case. It really is kind of definitely one of the things that people think, and this is just what the masses think, but it is definitely complete bullshit in the end. So let's get into the ideas.ted.com article. I do hope that I'm able to finish with that, but I think it should be fine. So it's from the We Humans section once again. It is actually maybe the best section, but Storytelling is a powerful communication tool, and here's how to use it from TED. So maybe they've just been talking to TEDs, or it is a masterclass. It seems to be some sort of a class. And this one is by Chris Anderson, and it was published on November the 11th, 2019. So many of the best TED Talks are built around stories, with speakers' personal anecdotes helping them bring their ideas to life. Here, a TED Head curator Chris Anderson provides us with some storytelling do's and don'ts, plus news about the TED Masterclass app. After watching a great TED Talk on TED.com, many of us have wondered, could I do it myself? Could I give a TED Talk? And by the way, I've never actually been thinking about it that much, but Seth Godin was talking about TED Talks, and he said that your first speech is not going to be a TED Talk. It's going to be because the thing is, he actually paid for his first talks and for his first speeches, which is quite interesting, because nowadays he gets paid quite a lot for giving a speech, for giving a talk. But a TED Talk is actually something that's pretty prestigious. It is nothing that's like, this is just TED Talk and here you go and here you have it, just do it. It really is not the case. And I've never been thinking about it since, I don't know, there's so many TED Talks. I don't know why, actually. Even just the quality isn't bad and whatnot, and there's always just such a lot of people. But I've never been thinking about it. So now is your chance to find out. The new TED Masterclass app, available for the Apple Play Store and also for the Apple Play Store, for the Google Play Store, and also for the Apple App Store, is designed to help you develop and share your best ideas at TED-style talk. Guided by TED head curator Chris Anderson, based on his book TED Talks, the official TED guide to public speaking. The app-based course features 11 animated lessons that break down the public speaking techniques that TED speakers use to present their ideas. Developed by TED Ed, the course also features a library of full-length TED Talks from Brené Brown, Brian Stevenson, Susan Cain, and others to reinforce its lessons. In this post, which is adapted from the TED Masterclass app and his book, Anderson discusses how we can learn to use storytelling to elevate our speeches, presentations, and talks. And I wouldn't necessarily say that these are the only areas in life where you can use this knowledge, but I guess also when you're designing something, also when you're making something, also when you're just filming something, storytelling is always something that's quite important. And I've been also interested in, but resources, I don't know, there's not just a bucket list guide to how to do it. It's a little bit more complicated, but maybe this article is a really good one. So I'm gonna read. The best evidence from archaeology, I don't know, and anthropology suggests that the human mind evolved with storytelling. About 1 million years ago, our hominid ancestors began gaining control of the use of fire, and it seems to have had a profound impact on their development. It provided warmth, defense against predators, and the ability to cook food, along with its remarkable consequences for the growth of our brains. But it brought humans something else. Fire created a new magnet for social bonding and drew people together after dark. In many cultures, one form of fireside interaction became prevalent, which is storytelling. It is no surprise that many of the best TED Talks are anchored in storytelling, since it is something that's so deeply rooted in our brains, as they pointed out, which is something that I'm just gonna believe now. But when it comes to sharing a story as part of a presentation or speech, there are 4 key things for you to remember. Base it on a character your audience can emphasize with, or around a dilemma your audience can relate to. Build tension, whether through curiosity, intrigue, or actual danger. Offer the right level of detail. Too little and the story is not vivid, too much and it gets bogged down. And with a satisfying resolution, whether it is funny, moving, or revealing. Of course, it is all in the execution. Before speaking in front of a group, it is really worth fine-tuning your stories. Or our stories. Mixing up German and English once again. Ladies and gentlemen. Including the stories from our own lives, many of us overstuff them with details that are important to us, but a wider audience just doesn't need to know. Building your talk around a single story can offer huge benefits. The personal story is the simplest, easiest to prepare type of talk. After all, you know your story and you know more about it than anybody else in the world. Or anyone else in the world. A personal story will also create empathy with your audience. Your through line is taken care of. It is simply the narrative arc of the story. But there is one trap that you must avoid. Your overall goal as a speaker is to give, yet personal stories sometimes fail to do that. They may entertain or intrigue or boost your ego, but they don't automatically give the audience something they can walk away with, such as insights, actionable information, perspective, context, or maybe even hope. One of the biggest reasons we turn down applications to speak at TED is when they offer compelling anecdotes, but no central idea that wraps their narrative together. This is heartbreaking because the speakers are often fascinating people, but without a good idea, it is an opportunity missed. The key shift needed is an artful edit of your journey that links together critical moments in a way that someone else can derive meaning from them. If your journey reveals something powerful you've learned, and if each step is revealed with humility, honesty, and vulnerability, it is a journey that other people will gladly make with you. There's one other non-negotiable essential if you're telling your own story. It has to be true. This may seem obvious, but people sometimes try to impress their audience by exaggerating or fibbing precisely because they know a story can have so much impact. You must resist this temptation. When you combine a truthful story with a desire to use it for the benefits of other people, you will be giving your listeners an extraordinary gift. In her TED Talk, psychologist Eleanor Longgen, was willing to share how she began hearing voices in her head while she was at university. It led her to being diagnosed with schizophrenia, institutionalized, and driven to the point of suicide. Her story also is reventing, but she builds it so people leave her talk with inspiring insights on schizophrenia, mental illness, and how we might rethink our responses to them. Here's a part of her ending. There is no greater honor or privilege than facilitating the process of healing for someone, to bear witness, to reach out a hand, to share the burden of someone's suffering, and to hold the hope for their recovery. And likewise, for survivors of distress and adversity, that we remember we don't have to live our lives forever defined by the damaging things that have happened to us. We are unique, we are irreplaceable. What lies within us can never be truly colonized, contoured, or taken away. The light never goes out. Because we have been there. Maybe this is something that she already said here, but because when I'm reading, I'm not always just keeping attention to it, which is sometimes a pity, but I'm trying to read it in a good way. I'm trying to just not just do it in such a way that when people actually listen to it, that it's just a burden and that it's just fucked up and shitty and nobody wants actually to listen to it since it's so shitty. But you have been there. And it actually is the case that the light never goes out because people are going to remember you. And it is also something that I want to point out or maybe emphasize. If you're willing to be remembered as a good person, then you probably have to do good things. What good things are is probably going to be something that you have to figure out for yourself and on your own. Because for me, it might be something different than for you. And in my culture, in my community, it might also be something different than it is for your culture and for your community and also for you. So figure out what these things are that you think are just letting you be remembered as a good person. Unless you do not want to be remembered as a good person, but as an inspiring person, as whatever person you want to be remembered as. It is about your legacy, basically. It is about your legacy. And I think that also in this case, doing the right thing rather than the easy thing is maybe a pretty valuable thing to do. Just think about that. Maybe this is something that helps you. Maybe this is something that shifts your mind, shifts how you think about things. I at least hope that it is changing something. In his TED Talk, How the Worst Moments in Our Lives Make Us Who We Are, writer Andrew Solomon described how he was humiliated as a child, even before he came out as gay. But he manages to turn his story into an exhilarating narrative of identity that anyone could relate to and learn from. And there's a quote now: "There's always somebody who wants to confiscate our humanity. And there are always stories that restore it. If we live out loud, we can trance the hatred and expand everyone's lives. Stories resonate deeply in every human. By giving your talk as a story or a series of related stories, you can greatly increase your connection with your audience. But please, let it mean something." Ready to tell your own story? Download the TED Masterclass app from Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. After downloading it, you'll be able to see an overview of every lesson, including that it's about what you learn, and 2-minute video from the entire course. You'll also get a preview of the library and the idea log. Full access to the course, which is $90 or $89.99, is available via in-app purchase, and all proceeds will go to support the non-profit work of TED. It's a non-profit work? Interesting. Chris Anderson is the creator of TED. About the author. Chris Anderson is the creator of TED. Well, that's how you're honoring the actually also head creator, as they said above, I guess. Yeah, the head curator of TED, by just saying, well, he's just a curator. Just anyone, like just any person, whatever. But I have to point out that it is not really easy to package whatever you want to say. Package what the whole point of your talk is into a story. It is definitely not easy, and it definitely takes some tries. And I don't know, I wouldn't actually assume that the first talk that you're giving and the first speech that you're doing is going to be a good one, especially compared to those that you're just doing 100 days from this point. For example, just let's think about having a speech every single day. It's gonna do pretty good to you. And yeah, I think you will definitely progress, with everything that you're doing every single day. And I'm really a great fan of doing some things every single day. And I would also say that I'm able to better my English, better my speaking, and better my thinking through podcasting, through writing on my blog, through so many things that I am trying to do. And constantly there are more things that I'm willing to do that I'm trying to do, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm in a position and that people actually on the podcast, like if you're listening to this, I'm so appreciating that. I've seen that people started listening on the podcast and people also just started watching more YouTube videos, and it feels amazing. It is insane. It actually is so good, like even though it's not that much, compared to other people's podcasts, of course, but comparing yourself to other people doesn't make any sense, by the way. But it's not that much, not that much. It's still really, really a lot for me, since I've been doing it for more than a year, which is actually also not that much, but it's quite some work. And I kind of feel like that I have done something, I kind of feel like that I can look back and say, well, I did that, I built that. And it is maybe also something that happens to you as well, that in the first beginning, you're going to feel like, well, I don't necessarily know if I'm proud of this. I don't necessarily know if this is something that I'm going to show to my kids when they are grown up and whatnot. But after some time, you're going to get better. After some time, you're going to progress your craft. After some time, your craft is just going to be better. It's just going to be better. It's just you're doing it every single day. It has to be better. Of course, on some days, like the previous episode that I've recorded today, it wasn't as good as this one is, at least as I think about it. But it doesn't necessarily have to say or have to mean that it is actually the case, since I'm judging my work, and I shouldn't. Because I don't know what the people that I'm trying to serve actually want to have. Because I guess it's always going to be a surprising thing. Also something that Gary Vee was talking about, that it is also always surprising what people actually value. Because, I don't know, today I've actually posted a random TikTok video about just, I don't know, I was writing something and it was something meaningful. I'm always trying to do that, but I'm only was filming just some snow because it is snowing, and actually the train and those things, and it wasn't really like, I was actually expecting that it gets just one view and that's quite it. But it wasn't the case. It's always something surprising, I would say. But yeah, I do hope that I was able to just provide some sort of value. I do just hope that I read it in a good way. I think the reading today was actually relatively fine. But yeah, I'm going to see you the next time, I hope. So please subscribe to the podcast, and also please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It would really, really, really mean a lot to me. And I would appreciate it. And I mean, yeah, you get a lot from it or something. So yeah, I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself how you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy. Which means that you're just going to be a nice person, and then you're also going to be a nice person by probably the majority of the people. Of course, there are going to be some people that hate you or just dislike you, but maybe even hate you. It is what it is. Like, there's nothing to do about that. But yeah, 3 other questions that I hope that you're going to ask yourself are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose in life, which is definitely important. And maybe this is also going to show you some business ideas, since a lot of businesses started out or a lot of CEOs started out with solving something that really pissed them off. And there's probably also something in your life that really pisses you off that isn't solved and fixed at this point in time. But yeah, I'll see you the next time. I at least hope. Thanks a lot again. I'm so appreciating that. Thank you.